Some questions, some 2-3 rounds of questions, and they can give a response to it, and then we'll move towards rally. There is a silent march being organized from Gajendra Circle to main gate. So, questions? And from Gajendra Circle to main gate, and from there to back to Gajendra Circle.
Some survey about it and what is really happening.
We'll take a couple of questions and then they can answer.
Good afternoon, sir. My question to Dr. Suresh is that, sir, Mahatma Gandhi said an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. But still, as the violence being a part of giving the humanitarian or bringing the humanitarian rights to any civilization is justified? Or can't we find out our freedom struggle has been full of many atrocities, and still Mahatma Gandhi followed the principle of non-violence and taking care that no place the violence should take over as a part of our national struggle. But in this struggle, is the violence part justified?
Whose violence?
That is what I am saying, sir. Either the violence has been on the part of the LTT or the Sri Lankan Tamils, or it is on the part of the government of Sri Lanka.
We'll just take a couple of questions.
Hello sir. This 83 onwards from 2013, the distortion more from last 4 years only. Okay. So, but we are telling from central government, all things in central government. But what are my feeling? Central government, no one is there. Only one person is there. All of them know. That only they're going on all things. But the central government, the one person, family problem. I am feeling the family problem. That family problem only, I am telling what the LTT, Pravagaran is mainly they focusing, but other Tamilians not LTT relations. But that particular person thinking that LTT only is my family problem. That only he killed particularly. But you explain that particular person, single person, others also not LTT relatives.
Why you want me to name? You also name. You're being a true idea, no?
Yes.
You make the point, you take the risk.
No, I am not BTech, I am a research scholar, sir. Okay. So I am not escaping from other countries. No one give opportunity. Only BTech only give opportunity. Okay, I am staying here only after my years only. Okay, I planned already. So you please explaining. Is LTT other? They thinking maybe a Pravagaran other relations is there, but not relations. Other Tamilians only is there. So leave that family problem, that family things. Then that is simple. I show my power 2015. I know that will come election. I show my effect.
2014.
14, yes sir, 14. Thank you sir.
We Tamils rural unity. It's a rural unity. We Tamils rural unity because we have 40 MPs and 230 MLAs. We can go and flag and ask our Delhi. Still, it's not happening last 60 years. This is Tamil now. Ottumela Srinala Vadi.
One more question. Actually, this is regarding the strategic angle. I mean, my understanding is that the right to protect comes into or can be acted upon through the Security Council. Is that right? And there is I mean, India and China being on the same side strategically is also a very important thing as far as South Asia is concerned. I mean, the entire positioning of South Asia as India versus China is not a very constructive approach as far as I understand. And also that whatever the UN Human Rights Commission might pass as a resolution, effective action is possible only through the Security Council. I mean, if at all it has to be an external intervention. But those things apart, I think what I'm really worried about is this entire South Asia. I completely agree with the fact that we share cultural roots and a history, but positioning it as India versus China is, to my mind, not a very constructive approach, and I would like comments on that from all the panelists.
ப்ரெஸ் இந்த டிவி சேனல் எல்லாம் நம்ம இந்தியாவில் நிறைய எல்லாமே நம்ம வெளிநாட்டில் இருக்கிற சேனல் மூலமாக வெளியே தெரியுது. 5 வருஷமா நடந்த அத்தனையும் இதுவரைக்கும் இருட்டடிப்பாக வேணும் செய்யப்பட்டதா?
Sir, you said India has created the monster, but still it has maintained it for more than 30 years. Why they suddenly want to terminate the monster? Because it is neither strategically it is not a good one for India, it is very well known. Why they suddenly want to kill the monster? That question it doesn't have any belongs to it.
Sir, my question is off the topic. My question is to you, Mr. Bhagwan Singh. Sir, you said you go to wherever you go. You said you always tell students to participate in elections. But sir, most of us are outsiders, so we don't get a chance to vote. And sir, there is something called 6A form and 8A form through which, if we fill, we can vote in any part of India. So sir, I actually wanted to know about that. And how can the administration? I also want to question the administration sitting over here from of our college. So how can we actually vote by being here?
Any more questions?
Sir, you have mentioned that China has spread in many parts of Sri Lanka. So Indian government know about these things. So even after knowing these things, and we know China is threat to us, why Indian government is supporting Sri Lanka?
I would like to question my question of the Shahbag protest which is going on in Bangladesh also. So we have parallels between what is going on in Bangladesh and what is going on in Sri Lanka. And in both cases, the state has acted in a very particular way. As in the case of Bangladesh, probably the Jamaat-e-Islami in Bangladesh has been rabidly anti-Indian, and any move from Indian side is portrayed as hostile. There are some geopolitical implications for that. But as in the case of Sri Lanka, what is stopping the nation to take a stand as such? Because there is no such a form of hostility, although there is that Chinese angle coming in. As a part of administration, what is stopping India from taking a moral principle?
Let the answer. Let's start from the family thing. Yashwant Sinha gave a very good speech in the parliament regarding the issue when he came to debate. He clearly illustrated the period in which BJP was administrating and changeover of the regime. Then from 2004 to 2009 of UPM government, and how this structured genocidal war was planned in such a way, it was in the end of UPA regime, that is 2009, when every Indians were concentrating in elections and a mass scale genocide was happening in our peoples. He questioned the government, why do you plan? Why the strategic military help was given to Sri Lanka and the war was timed in that particular period of time. You know, then the National Security Advisor was M.K. Narayanan. M.K. Narayanan, he doesn't have any valid degree to become as a National Security Advisor. He was completely dealing with the Sri Lankan Tamil issues during the point of time. Whenever M.K. Narayanan comes to Tamil Nadu, meeting the press, he gives a different interpretation. Whenever he goes to Sri Lanka to stay hands with Rajapaksa, he gives the interpretation. And whenever he comes to Delhi, he gives a different interpretation. We had a National Security Advisor who gives three types of interpretations, three types of dialogues at Delhi, at Tamil Nadu and in Sri Lanka. When he comes to Tamil Nadu, he says, yes, we are pressing for ceasefire. When he goes to Sri Lanka, the aid maneuvers, the helping military strategic ties will be discussed. In Delhi, he has a different version. And you know, when the Mumbai terror attacks came in, it was a complete failure of Indian intelligence when the entire parliament raised up that M.K. Narayanan should come out of the post of National Security Advisor, but the Indian government defended M.K. Narayanan in that position. And we know what happened to M.K. Narayanan later. He was gifted to become the West Bengal governor by removal of Sir Gopalakrishnan Gandhi, his grandson of Gandhi. Gopalakrishnan Gandhi was insulted. He's such a pragmatic person. He just walked away because he didn't have, the next day the governorship was ending. He didn't have any proper information. He just walked away and M.K. Narayanan stayed. And recently also we had some controversies regarding that issue. So one thing was for him is very clear. Why the Indian government is so much for Sinhalese rather than understanding the sentiments of 6 crore Tamil population. You should very clearly understand that Tamils in Tamil Nadu, Tamils in Sri Lanka are natural allies to India. Why do I jeopardize my natural allies for a Sinhala? Because I would say that if an independent international war crime investigation comes into place, even our top high command of this government, the top high command of his officials will be caught red-handed. So that's the reason that India is going right royally to protect Sri Lanka and to pressurizing the international world to implement the LLRC recommendation, but not by allowing an independent international investigations by the UN. In 2009, the Swiss government brought a resolution in Human Rights Council. In that Swiss resolution, it was clearly stated that erroneous war crimes are conducted, we should conduct an international independent probe. But India, including Western countries, defeated that resolution at that point of time. Why India is doing so? Because India will also be in line with the genocidal war. It will be also held responsible for this erroneous war crimes. Coming to the question, why the Tamil representatives are not being in single platform, we are not electing correct representatives. That's a problem. No, we are voting, we are electing representatives, right? To represent in Lok Sabha Parliament or the Rajya Sabha Parliament.
We are taking different parties, different representatives, but we are Tamils only. We are electing Tamils only. But whether the 48 MPs or 235 MLAs are very united.
See,
they are parties, but they are also independent humans.
No, that's, I understand the point, but the politicians what you elect are not the two representatives reflecting the people's sentiments in the parliament. That's a strong message we have to get. Our picks are wrong picks, irrespective of political parties.
Still, this happening continuously. Still, we are, you elected, I elected, in the future, my generation, and coming generation, same, elected person also the same way.
So that's a thing we are orienting. We need a point of change.
Thambi, I will tell you something which is the painful truth. I'm sure anyone will also back me on this. 2009, just after the war was over, in Savera Hotel we had an international conference where we discussed the war, the huge massacre. Bruce Finn, he was a lawyer, American lawyer, who was to represent the Tamil issue, the Tamil case. He is also a human rights lawyer. In Savera Hotel, he said, unfortunately, Tamils are not united. And he said, if there are 5 Tamils in this hall, there will be 7 political parties. I'm American telling you. 2 months back, I was in Australia at the invitation of a friend, a Sri Lanka Tamil friend who has been living there for about 30 years, settled there. He took me to a beautiful Murugan temple, Melbourne, on the outskirts, Ivanhoe. And he was telling me in Tamil, he said, Anne, I mean, there are some non-Tamils also, so I will speak in English. He said, when we first came 30 years back, we built this beautiful temple. There were Indian Tamils, Sri Lankan Tamils. We were together. And then within a couple of years, there was fight within the committee. So we built another temple. The rival group built another temple. Now, I will tell you an illustration, demonstration, example of Tamil unity or disunity. Today, just in Melbourne on outskirts, there are 7 temples. So why do we have to go to Parliament? Even here, if only Tamils are united. That is a problem, if Tamils are united.
I think we will talk about this outside, the other issues.
Then regarding the press, so I would say that it's a part and parcel of the failure on our side too. We didn't talk the language of the northern press. See, initially, this Tamil Eedam crisis, it was confined to pockets within Tamil Nadu, and people in Tamil Nadu have seen that it doesn't cross the boundaries of Tamil Nadu because they have their vested political interest to sustain. Any sincere attempt to cross the boundaries of Tamil Nadu took place after generations like us came in. So we thought this issue should be an Indian issue, should have an Indian angle, not be a Tamil rhetoric angle. After that, what happened? Headlines Today made a wonderful attempt. Forget UK Channel for Radio. They went inside by themselves, inside the Sri Lankan fields, and brought out the true facts, as many media here did. So its approach should be changed on our side, on our perspective, to think this issue as an electoral issue, an election issue, and think it on a much more humanitarian and broad-based basis, so that to push the pressure on the Indian government to take a drastic U-turn in the election affairs. So it is changing, sir.
You asked about Gandhiji and eye for an eye making a world blind. You are right. Violence, what is the role for violence in politics and political action is a debatable issue. The UN Secretary General's Special Committee has said, investigate into both the violations of human rights law by the LTTE as also by the Sri Lankan government. Okay, and that is what we are asking. The international call today is to say, have an independent investigation by a world community into the whole issue of what happened in Sri Lanka up to the war end and after the war. Because it's very important to notice that the periods are very important. Up to May 19th, after May 19th till 2011, 2011 till now. All these three things have to be, because the UN Human Rights Commissioner has given a report saying that till date, disappearances are taking place, kidnappings are taking place, people are getting picked up and they are getting killed. Till now there is impunity, there is no rule of law, all the rule of law institutions have been thrown out. So the same point that you are saying is the point that the world community is saying, there is no space for violence, and if violence has been committed, let it be investigated. The problem is, the Sri Lankan government is saying, no violence took place from our side, only violence took place from the LTTE side, and therefore there is no need for investigation. Now you cannot have it both ways. That is the point that is coming up. And unfortunately, taking off from where he said, there has been a mistake, as our friend said, there has been a mistake, at least let me talk for myself, let me not talk for all other Tamilians. Let me talk for myself and the organization, I am a national level organization. In 2008, we painfully came to a realization that unfortunately this whole issue has become only a Tamil Nadu, Tamil and Sri Lanka type of an issue. The rest of India has not been bothered about it. We found that we were also responsible for not taking this message to the rest of India. I will give you this is a problem that we all face given the size of the country. How many Tamilians or people of Tamil Nadu are bothered about what happens in West Bengal in terms of the border districts? How many people in Karnataka are bothered about what happens in Rajasthan or Rajasthan? How many people in Gujarat are bothered about what happens in Kanyakumari? See, there are these broader issues. It's a much more longer, bigger issue. I would only say that what is of great importance is that we have a vibrant human rights community. It does not mean human rights activist community. The citizenship, the larger body of citizens should be much more human rights conscious, and where there is a much more conscious human rights community, then human rights can be protected. There is this very often quoted saying of a German priest who had written something in the walls of the prison where he had stayed, which was found after he was killed at the end of the Second World War. A person called Bishop Niemöller. He said, when they came for the communists, I was not a communist, they went away. Then they came for the gypsies, I was not a gypsy, they went away. Then they came for the Jews, I was not a Jew, they went away. It goes on like that. In the end he says, finally they came for me and there was nobody to fight for me. That is the situation that we are existing in today. And that is a question that you young people, I'm hoping, will feel that after this talk, some amount of some clarity that we need to ask. Because when it happens again tomorrow in India, don't forget last year, July 2012, you remember that scare that came for Northeast people in all over India? Thousands of those Northeast young people fled. Overnight, they just left everything and they fled and went away. So it is a tinderbox that is happening. It's happening there in Assam now. So these are issues that are happening all over. We need therefore a much more conscious, active, vibrant, human rights conscious community. And if it is of young people, nothing better. Because the future is truly in your hands. I used to get very irritated when I was your age and somebody came and told me citizens of tomorrow, and I used to get very angry. But I'm not meaning it in that sense of a rhetorical thing. But I'm saying truly we need a much more vibrant community, and that community, if it comes about through this, well and good. And that is the issue. On the issue of China, I agree, Milind, that this issue of India, we should not put it as India versus China. But the reality across is the fact that there are strategic interests, and as a nation we need to come to terms with it. Speaking from the experience of what is happening in Sri Lanka as all around, I am not at all confident that our foreign policy mandarins, our government has a clue on how to handle this. So while we may not necessarily be by instinct anti-China, strategically we need to be clear about the whole security context here. It worries me a lot that we are surrounded by extremely hostile neighbors, and behind those neighbors is another presence which is cozying up to them. If you see what is happening in the thing as of today, on 22nd when it is coming up for thing, today the new Prime Minister of China has given a statement saying that we will support you no matter what. You see, and the vote is now in a very, very beginning stage, which is why I think we need to say, one, Government of India should vote. Two, we should also as Indian citizens ask the Government of India to canvass with other countries who are part of the Human Rights Council to vote in favor of the resolution. Three, we should also demand that the Government of India not do anything to water down this whole thing, the way that famous letter which Manmohan Singh wrote to Rajapakse on 23rd March 2012, but say instead that we should support a fully transparent investigating machinery as proposed by the UN Human Rights Commission. Okay, and we are going by what is there on record. We are not asking for something new. That is the least, that's the minimum demand that we can put. I think that's the only way we can strengthen the larger human rights community.
Yeah, to what extent, sir, do you think that such incidents, such problems could be solved? Like, in my opinion, what I think, like today, where we are Indian, when we are Indian, we are either Tamilians, we are either Bihari, we are either Jharkhand, we are Marathi, we are Gujarati. When we talk that, when we say like we are Indian, I don't think like the basic problem starts from here, isn't it? Then what, like if suppose I see a social problem somewhere, whom to address, how to address, can I expect if I approach to a higher authority, my problem would be solved? Will they listen? I don't see any alternative also. If you say, okay, we should change the government, do I think like, is it possible if I choose another government, will it be like everything will be balanced? How to like settle down this problem?
Well, I'm just being conscious about the time. There's a march and we need to also go there and support them. We could talk about it outside, but I think that is the question that you all will have to start, and we all will, as a community of people, have to start. There are no easy answers, but let me also not leave you with a gloomy feeling that nothing is being done. There are lots of ordinary people who are fighting in Kudangulam, in POSCO, in Jaitapur, in Jaipur, against GM crops. There are lots of people who are fighting. We have a government system which on paper has a duty to respond to our needs. In reality is acting against our needs. The only way we can discipline them is by creating greater number of people who will demand accountability, demand transparency and demand responsibility. How to do that is something that we'll have to talk a lot more. Meetings like this is a starting point.
Thank you all. Thank you all for joining the discussion. There have been our friends fasting from the morning, and we'll end the fast at Gajendra Circle. I request Dr. Swaminathan and Dr. Milind and all the panelists, along with Meenakantasamy the poet, to be there and end the fast of our friends, and we'll proceed to the rally from Gajendra Circle. Please be there, and thank you all for coming.